Meeting of the Danville Boyle County Planning and Zoning Commission to order. I would like to ask if one of our members would do the invocation, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
We thank you for joining us and gathering us this morning. We ask God for your blessing on this committee and for our city and county. We ask you to guide our discussions and help us to listen to each other and hear everybody's voice. And we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much. We're going to move our agenda around just a little bit because we have a couple of our commissioners who have pressing business elsewhere, and we want to make sure and get through the public hearings. So we're going to go, instead of doing the things on the agenda that are before it, we're going to go directly to public hearing. So I would ask for a motion that we go into public
Let's check and see if Michaela, are you online?
Yes, I'm here. Are you all able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, so Michaela is ill, but she is participating with us virtually today. So thank you for doing that, even though you're not feeling well.
Yeah, thank you all for accommodating me.
Okay, so I need a motion that we go into public hearing, please. Can I have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, we're going to go into public hearing. The first item on the agenda is the Tyler and Hannah Isaacs item. Michaela, can you take us through that?
I can. Who's running the slideshow here?
I guess I am. Let's see.
Lisa is.
Lisa.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Sorry if my voice goes in and out. Tyler and Hannah Isaacs have applied for a future land use map amendment from low-density residential to commercial on 0.22 acres at 714 Houstonville Road. So as you can see, it's this property that's right across from Highland Court and along 4th Street, or Houstonville Road. It's currently zoned RM2, that's our two-family residential zoning district. And the future land use map, if you go to the next slide there, Lisa, is low-density residential. And so the applicant is requesting that this be changed to commercial. The commercial land use designation consists of a broad array of commercial development, including individual commercial, retail, service, hotel, or office, businesses that may exist along a highway corridor or business district, as well as larger planned shopping centers and office parks. So if you go to the next slide there, Lisa, these are the findings that the Planning Commission is required to review when looking at a form amendment request. So basically, we're looking at, the component of the comprehensive plan, the future land use map amendment that's currently showing as low density residential, and whether it's appropriate to show that future land use designation as commercial. So if you look at the highlighted section, basically, you're trying to see if it's clearly compatible with the existing surrounding development as demonstrated by the applicant, and if it fits within the context of that area. If you look along all of the 4th Street corridor, there's a great deal of commercial on it. It obviously backs up to residential on the rear side of the property, so that's something to consider. But when you read through commercial future land uses and through the comprehensive plan, the commercial designation is really showing that it should be on major arterials like 4th Street is. And I think it would be consistent with the corridor. So, that's essentially what I had in my staff report, but if there's any more questions for me on that, I can answer them.
Michaela, I know that we're working on the existing comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Is this also consistent with the new comprehensive plan that's going to get voted on soon?
Yes, the new
Okay.
comprehensive plan is showing this as one of our commercial designations that we have in the future land use map. So, it's not consistent with the current form, the 2017 one that we're considering today, but for the one that we're hoping to get adopted in a few months from now, it is consistent.
Thank you.
And Director, I want to make sure that we're on track. This is you're going to do this in two steps. The zoning review is the next topic on this identical property. So we're talking about the future land use map
Flume
discussion.
amendment only.
Yes, that's correct. In our current comprehensive plan, we have requirements for future land use map designations. So essentially, if they don't meet one of those exceptions, which this property was not meeting one of the exceptions, they're required to go through a future land use map amendment if the flume is not consistent with the application. So that's what we're considering first, and then the next item on the agenda is the zone change.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Collier, I did want to add, though, that counsel for the applicant had discussed kind of making one presentation, and it's difficult to separate the two issues, flume and zone map amendments sometimes. So for economy of time, council's going to try and lay out the whole case for it, and then your vote, however, will consider flume elements, and then on the next one, zone map elements.
So it's not really combining the two, but it's
One presentation.
one
Right,
presentation.
exactly.
One presentation because one presupposes the other.
Yeah,
Right.
well, they are heavily
Understood.
linked. Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay,
Would
so,
you like me to
but-
go through the zoning map amendment?
yes, please.
Okay, Lisa, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So again, it's the same property, and so for the zoning map amendment request, they are requesting to go from two-family residential RM2 to highway business. That's one of our commercial zoning districts. If you go to the next slide, these are some of the, development review provisions that the comprehensive plan provides, for commercial designations. I'm not gonna read through all of them, but I'll kind of just try and hit the highlights. Basically, the first one is that it should be accessible to major traffic arteries, which I would view this one as being, having frontage along a major traffic artery. It has frontage on US 127, which is an arterial road, and they have received approval from KYTC for a new entrance on this property. It should have appropriate screening or buffering next to existing residential areas. They will have to meet all landscaping requirements as set forth in the zoning ordinance, which would require a 10-foot buffer and plantings. That's something that can be a condition if you want to exceed that, but for now, that's what they'd be required to do. I will skip the next one. I don't know that it's necessarily relevant, but also just more appropriate trees, landscaping, benches, and other site amenities. So staff is unaware of any site amenities proposed outside of the required landscaping. And the next one has to do with the central business district, which we are not talking about, so. Neighborhood commercial areas, which, I would not view this as, it's along a major, thoroughfare, so I view it more as a corridor type development, but, if you go to the next slide, this is the conceptual plan that was submitted by the applicant for this property. So they're showing an 18 by 18 foot, two-story commercial building, with 3 parking spaces on the site. And then, the approved entrance from KYTC is being shown with a 24-foot, I thought it was a 24-foot entrance there, but it looks like it widens up to 30 foot once it gets to the parking area. This would be meeting the number of parking spaces we have. I don't have all the exact measurements for this parking area, so I'm not quite sure if there's sufficient space for vehicles to turn around in the parking area as it's shown. We wouldn't allow people to back out onto 4th Street, obviously with the traffic and safety concerns, so there'd have to be sufficient space on site for vehicles to turn around before they're entering onto 4th Street there. Was there any questions for me on the concept plan? No, okay. Lisa, if you could go to the next slide. These are the required findings for the zoning map amendment. So you're looking to see if it's in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan or in absence of such findings, the original zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate, or there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature. I think for this one, you're probably looking to see if it's in agreement with the comprehensive plan. That's the first finding you're supposed to look at. And then in absence of such finding, you can find that the original zoning classification is inappropriate, which you probably could argue with it being on a major thoroughfare, that residential may not be appropriate for this property, but I do think it's in agreement with the comprehensive plan, particularly if we consider the Flume Amendment, but when you look through, again, where it's described for commercial development, it doesn't specifically mention 4th Street, but it does mention major arterials, as well as, as well as just opening up to the full urban area to try and, direct it to those major arterials, so I do think it's probably in agreement with the comp plan, but if you go to the one last slide, Lisa, it just shows some more zoomed out looks at, the zoning on the left, so all the purple is highway business, so you can see, a good deal of 4th Street on up, to Main Street is primarily known highway business, and it pretty much goes down all the way to the, bypass. There is some area, that has that residential on 4th Street. We have changed, at least one of those, so we're kind of starting to see some requests for those to change, but, you can see the majority of that corridor is zone commercial. And then on the right is the future land use map amendment, so it's pretty much consistent with what we see on the zoning map, but you can kind of see again that there's a good deal. The red is commercial, and then the yellow is low density residential, so. That's all I've got. Is there any questions for me? Okay.
So I'd like to have the applicant speak to this, please.
Your opening is up for public discussion, right? Okay.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Commission. My
Good
name
morning.
is Melanie Thornberry. I am an attorney here in Danville, and I am here representing the applicants, Tyler and Hannah Isaacs. They are here also, and I would be happy to, if there's a question I cannot answer, happy to see if they can provide an answer. Additionally, Kendall Wise with Vantage Engineering, who prepared the conceptual plan that Michaela shared with you, is here. As Michaela covered, and I'll just emphasize some of what she said to enable you all to have the testimony you need to have in order to enter, excuse me, the findings that we are seeking. I am sorry. All right. The subject property lies there along Houstonville Road in a highly commercialized area. There is a pawn shop, a laundromat, a Valvoline instant oil change location. Sears is out that way. The nutrition center is out that way. As you come down the hill, there is a tattoo parlor business. There are businesses across the street. Lee's Famous Recipe is there. And this Houstonville Road, South 4th Street, has developed over time into a major, if not the major, north-south artery in our community. And long has been the encouragement for folks seeking commercial businesses to look out in this area of South Danville, where it is the subject property, as well as how it extends on out towards our continuing commercialized areas with restaurants and such. And this is because we have long sought to keep commercial businesses in the southern part of our county and our community, so that those folks that are looking for commercial places are going in one place and not crossing back and forth, north, south, and east, west, all over the community. And to also keep it concentrated in an area, which is something that planning and zoning statutes seek to do. This particular property is a small lot. It has received the approval from the Department of Transportation in Kentucky to add a commercial entrance into it. The conceptual plan that you all saw, I have confirmed with my client. His plan is to have that sort of as an office headquarters for his own businesses, and those businesses are ones that do not have clients coming in and out. Instead, it's more of an office use, which is appropriate in the highway business zone. So that would alleviate concerns over the traffic and the in and out that would come along with a restaurant or a nail salon, hair salon, something of that type. I guess the emphasis for us is that this entire area, as you drive from Houstonville Road on into Danville on this major artery for our community, is commercial. Those businesses there, they front on 4th Street, and the zone or the designation of RM2, we believe is inappropriate because that designation is specifically geared towards having a duplex located on the property. So residential amongst a string of highway business commercial properties, and a duplex housing 2 different families, and those 2 families' drivers could quite likely result in more in and out traffic than the business use that my client is seeking for this property. I would also like to point out that while there is residential on the back or the east side of this property, if you drive this stretch of Houstonville Road, there is a very high rise in the land and the elevation behind this lot. And so those residential properties which front on, I believe it's South Street, Upper Street, North Street, those properties sit above significantly this particular lot. And therefore, that already allows for some very significant screening and separation of these two properties. So it is our position that the flume amendment being sought is appropriate, given the development of this area, and also that the hopefully soon adopted comprehensive plan actually shows this with the designation of the highway business. And we believe that the current designation of RM2, both as a future use and as its current zone, is inappropriate, and the highway business that we seek is significantly more appropriate for this piece of property. So if anyone has any questions, I am happy.
Somewhere along the way, I'm curious, you've got a 1-story building that you're planning to go on. If there was a 2-story building, would you see the property from the upper streets up there? It's a pretty good-sized hillside.
I know,
And
I'm
if you
gonna
don't
let-
have it, maybe we'll catch somebody in the conversation.
Well, I was
that
going to
does.
say, I will let Kendall
Yeah,
Wise, our
when you come up,
engineer.
Kendall, if you would, please, I'd be curious. But I think that's,
It is
and
a
then-
very steep embankment back there.
and as the director said, the concern was a turnaround, which will be addressed when we get to the layout of the building, the ability to turn around.
That's right, that's
Without
right.
going, you don't want anybody to back onto that street.
No.
Definitely not.
I would
That is-
agree
so-
with that, and I think anybody driving that corridor would agree with that.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to now open it for public comment. Would anybody like to speak in favor of this? Please state your name.
Yes, my name is Kendall Wise. I work for Vantage Engineering, and as Melanie said, we've done the surveys and put together this conceptual plan. The project, as it's proposed, is actually for a 2-story building. And what you'll see, because of the elevation change, there will be retaining walls. The backside of that lower floor will be basically a basement or a walkout basement.
Oh,
or
okay.
It'll have retaining wall on the backside of it. And so there would be a second floor that would be above grade on the, if you were looking at it from the back, you would think it was a 1-story building, but when you come to the front, it's going to look like
And I'm
a
not
2-story.
suggesting a 3rd story, but is there enough height to a 3rd story without blocking the view from the top, the other street? I mean, I don't remember how steep that is. That's all I'm trying to get a feel for, how far up it is to those residents that are on the east side of them.
I would have to, I have a copy of the plan, so if you give me a
Oh,
minute,
it's-
I can look at those contours, but
It's a long ways up there, I know. And as I was reminded here, there are other two-story buildings in that area right nearby that.
So typically, a story of a building would be 10 feet tall.
Yeah,
You know, right now, the Banks Property LLC is located behind us in the residential neighborhood. That property line is 8 to 15 feet higher than the floor of the second story.
oh, so there's a long ways up there yet.
So we could probably add a third floor, and it would still wouldn't be as high as the
Okay.
property line behind.
So we're just not blocking any sights or creating any shadows. That's where I was coming from.
Right.
Thank you. That works very well.
And as far as any concerns about maneuvering and vehicles, I mean, the building can be moved back further into the embankment. You know, the retaining walls maybe.
And as you and I, at this point in time, it's not as critical that be resolved. It will be resolved later
Right.
in another time in the committee, so, but it's just a point of observation.
And we've confirmed with the city about water and sewer service, so.
Thank you, Kendall.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak in favor of this? Do I have anyone who wants to speak in opposition? So on this particular issue, I'm going to close the floor to public comment, not hearing any further. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I might ask one or two questions of council.
Absolutely.
Ms. Thornberry, the reason for that is because our flume amendment criteria is unique. It asks about the use on the property, its compatibility with surrounding uses, and whether the use will overburden infrastructure in the area. It's interesting that at this preliminary stage, it gets so much into the details of the development, but I think I missed what you were saying about what is the proposed use on the property?
Yes, the proposed use is an office building, sort of the headquarters for my client's. Scrolodex Marketing is one of the businesses that he operates. If you all have seen the screens throughout the community where local advertisements are scrolling. And so this is going to give his entrepreneurship and his businesses a home office location.
I think that answers the flume issues and also staff's concern about it being a less intense use on the
Yes.
property.
Yes.
Do you have any reason to think that this proposed use would overburden infrastructure, streets, roads?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And I received confirmation from the city of Danville as far as water and sewer service being available at that location and forwarded the same to Ms. Jerry. And I also finally was able to connect with KU out of Lexington, and they, over the phone, confirmed that electrical service is there and available to this property. And because they cannot issue a written statement out of that office, they have to have a field locator who serves our area come out and do that, but that will be forthcoming.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Does anybody else on the commission have any questions or comments? If not, I will ask for a motion from the commission.
I'd like to move, Madam Chairman, that we approve the proposed flume map amendment. Based on what we've heard here, I think it's met the objective, met the directive to amend the flume as outlined in the comp plan, and its use is consistent with what we see as the future flume.
Do you mind if I
Thank you.
tag on to that?
Please.
I would ask that you incorporate the applicant's proposed justifications, as well as a finding that the proposed office building use will match the surrounding commercial area, especially because of its lower intensity use. And we've had testimony that the proposed use will not overburden infrastructure.
And that would go to the flume?
That's specifically
Motion.
flume finding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. So I accept that amendment.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now let's move to the next, which is David Durham property.
No.
We have to do the zoning
Zoning
change.
Sorry, keep me on track. I need a motion in regards to the zone change, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed zoning map amendment based on the testimony the documents presented in this public hearing. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan and is demonstrated by its compliance with the following items. That is, it's consistent with the adopted goals and objectives and consistent with the development overview provision.
Thank you.
Second.
Wait a minute, before we go to a second on there, do we have to attach and the staff concerns to this?
I think respond especially to that staff concern about traffic. And again, we heard a response to that in the fact that this is going to be a lower intensity use that will not overburden or cause traffic concerns. Also incorporate applicant justifications and find that it conforms with with the future land use map.
Are you good with that?
I'm good with that.
And I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Then that zone change passes. So now to the David Durham zoning map. Michaela, can you run us through that?
Yep, sorry, just let me unmute, I can do that. Lisa, if you could get to that first slide for the future land use map amendment. Okay, so David Durham has applied for a future land use map amendment for low density residential to commercial on 0.155 acres at 714 Houstonville Road, Danville. Sorry, it's 784 South 4th Street. I've got that wrong on the slide. I
Yeah.
apologize for the confusion on that. This property is right next to the, right next to the property that we were just discussing. The PVA map shows this as a larger parcel, as you can see here, but it's actually two separate tracts. So if you look at the zoning map amendment, that's pretty close to where the two parcel lines actually, or two tracts really are. So that more southern tract is the highway business that went through a rezoning back in 2015. And so now they're looking at the second tract here that I've circled. So it's just the 0.155 acres, which does meet our minimum lot size for the highway business district. But, you know, I'm first gonna run through the food, so if you go to next slide, sorry, I've just got a bigger aerial here, so it's just gonna be that undeveloped area just north of the existing vehicular display lot. If you go to the, I guess I didn't
So,
put it in, sorry, Lisa. go to
Michaela?
slides forward.
so question,
I'm sorry, I kind of got lost with 4 applications being very similar, so I apologize for that, but if you go 2 slides forward, you should hopefully see the future land use map, here, and so again, it's showing it as low density residential, and the applicant is requesting that it go to that commercial zoning designation, so we're looking at all the same things, whether the use is compatible, whether the utilities are available, and, you know, I can, I'll try and be brief, but again, it is on a major arterial. We are looking at that whole 4th Street corridor, and as I said before, the comp plan does direct us to put commercial uses along major arterials, such as US 127, where this property has frontage. This property has not applied for a new entrance. The intent is to use the existing shared entrance with Abilene and that existing vehicular sales lot that runs on that southern portion of this parcel. For the zoning map amendment, again, they're looking to go from RM2, 2-family residential, to HB, highway business, so again, a commercial designation. Sorry, did you have any questions for me on the plan before I jumped into the zone change?
No,
No?
just,
Okay.
just a quick question, Michaela. the two pieces of the same property. Is that right? That one has been rezoned in the past to highway business and this section has
So
not?
The PDA is showing it as one parcel, I can't speak to that, that's just how their map is shown. But legally, when they did the surveys, they're actually two separate tracts of land. I don't want to state this as fact, but my understanding is that the applicant actually acquired the two tracts at separate times. And so they are two legal lots of record that are separate. So we are not dealing with that southern portion that was rezoned in 2015. That's a separate tract. We're just looking at this 0.155 acres. That's its own tract. And that's currently zoned two-family residential. And they're looking to rezone it to highway business and looking for the Bloom amendment to commercial. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Michaela, is there
Yeah.
anything different about this than the one that we just talked about?
The difference is the type of use that the applicant is looking for. My understanding is that they're looking to extend the vehicular sales lot for this, so it won't be an office building, and they are not proposing a new entrance, so, where the Valvoline entrance comes in, it's a little bit more flat there, when you actually pull in, so I have a little less concern about ingress egress at that spot than I did at the previous location. And with the intensity of the use of being a vehicular sales lot, it's probably pretty similar.
So this is even easier then?
What's that?
This is even easier than the last one?
I just want to keep them separate. I know they seem really similar, but they are two separate applications, so we should keep them as such.
Yeah. But the point, your point is there's no additional
There's no
egress
additional-
onto
right.
4th Street here.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, and that I think is an important factor to consider. That is something that the comp plan pushes for, is for less entrances along major arterials. KYTC controls this road, so we can't dictate whether they get new entrances or not, if the applicant chooses to apply, but I do think in this case, it's ideal that we don't have, a second entrance coming in. This is a very steep slope when you're looking at getting up onto this property, so I am in favor of not adding an additional entrance at this location, so. Okay, and again, just the same findings for the plan as far as compatibility, and then the same findings for the zoning map amendment. I didn't have a conceptual plan submitted for this application, it's just a boundary survey, because they're just looking to add additional paving area, but all landscaping requirements would have to be met as far as the buffer area. There was some talk about landscaping additions on the property just south of it that went through the zone change in 2015. I don't believe there's an additional buffer, but, again, that's something that we could look at. Our current ordinance would require that 10-foot buffer, and there is required to be some evergreen trees planted between vehicular sales lots and residential areas, so they would be required to meet all those as per the zoning ordinance, but, yeah, that's really all I have. Again, we're looking at if this is agreement with the comprehensive plan, and, as I stated before, I do feel like this is an appropriate location for commercial. It won't have a separate entrance. The intensity of the use won't be like a drive-through restaurant and things like that, so it shouldn't have as much traffic generated as some potential other uses in the highway business district, so, that's it. Is there any questions for me on this one?
Yes, I have a question, Michaela.
Yeah.
Your document that's in the packet talks about this being a request for a future land use map change, but on our agenda, it speaks to this being a zoning map change.
Yeah.
Are we considering both,
At least
or,
not hand out the updated agenda.
okay?
I apologize. There is both requests, and I did notify as such. It got added on late. There was some confusion. I thought that when I looked at the PBA map, it was all as one parcel, which would have met the exception for a plume amendment. And then, right when I was sending out notifications the day before, I realized that they are actually two separate tracks. And so it wouldn't meet that exception and was required to go through the plume amendment. I did update the agenda, but you might not have it front of you, but we are doing a flume amendment and a zoning map amendment for this request.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for Michaela? Do we have one from the applicant who wishes to speak?
Hello, Melanie Thornberry again, on behalf of the owner, David Durham. I won't make you all endure my entire presentation again. I believe Michaela
Thank you.
has addressed it. And as you all are aware, this, changing this from the RM2 designation on the flume to highway business commercial is the better use and appropriate use for this property, as is then subsequently changing the zone officially from RM2 to highway business use. It is in that major commercial area along a major north-south artery in our community where we have long encouraged this type of development to be located as opposed to splitting out into other parts of the county. And I just want you all to know that I appreciate very much Miss Jerry's contacting me to let me know what she had found and had concerns about in the way of whether this was one piece of property or two pieces of property, because it was very confusing. PVA, I would suspect, once Mr. Durham purchased both properties, which he did at two different times by two different deed sources, they combined them under one PVA parcel identification. So it was after Kendall Wise did his surveying that we learned that indeed it is two separate pieces of property. But Mr. Durham's business has been located in this spot, and his only proposed use for this is a continued use of his car lot. It is not going to be a new and separate commercial location. So, thank you all.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions or comments for the applicant? If not, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in favor of this amendment? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition from the public? I'm going to close the floor then to public comment, questions, comments from the commission.
We're going to address the flume, and then we're going to address
Yes.
zoning as
Right.
two
We have
two
two
different
separate-
votes.
Yes.
And, okay.
I'll offer a proposed motion in favor, if that's all right. Before I do so, we've heard from City Hall staff that there's a big white Power Stroke Ford parked out there that needs to be moved. So if that's your big white Power Stroke Ford, where is it?
In the bike shop.
Bike shop lot. So, all right. On to the proposed motion. In support of the flume, I think you can adopt applicant justifications to support this change from low-density residential to commercial, emphasizing particularly that it's compatible because it's a continuation of the existing use.
Thank you. So we have a motion.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say yes.
Yep.
Thank you. So that takes care of both the flume and
No,
the
we haven't.
zoning,
That-
or we need to now go to the zoning.
A vote on the zoning, which even more simply can
Henry.
just adopt applicant justifications and staff analysis, since there were no staff concerns.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Thank you. That passes as well. Now we're
Thank you.
going to move on to the JLS investments. Michaela, can you take us through that?
I can. Lisa, if you could try and get to that first slide there for the JLS investment. Just let me know when it's there.
No.
No, keep going.
Sorry.
Keep going.
There. Up one, Lisa. Back one.
There you are. Now you've got it. Thank you, Lisa.
All right, thank you, Lisa. JLS Investments LLC has applied for a zoning map amendment on 29.923 acres located at 901 Shakertown Road, Danville, from agricultural and single-family residential R1A to single-family residential R1C. So you can see the property here, you know, that back portion is south of Streamland. It's opposite from Colonial Heights there, and it's kind of on that intersection of where Old Shakertown Road and Shakertown Road meet. So that front portion where there's an existing single-family residence is zoned agricultural, and then that back portion, which I didn't research much, but I'm making the assumption that it's probably rezoned with Streamland was rezoned, is zoned R1A, one of our single-family residential zoning districts. This was not required to go through a future land use map amendment. This whole area is shown for future land use of low-density residential, which is in line with what the applicant is requesting here. Sorry, I just tried to do a slightly more zoomed-out aerial. If you go to the next slide, that way you can get a slightly better shot of what we're looking at here. So if you see to the south, there is some multifamily residential off of Nichols Terrace. The property that's just adjoining to the south is zoned RM3, so it does have, you know, the ability to develop as multifamily residential, but it's not thought to such at this time. If you go to the next slide, this is just a boundary survey of the property, so it's showing where the existing residence is, as well as where the existing entrance is off of Shakertown Road. And there is some floodplain that comes along the northern portion of this property, northeastern portion of this property along Shakertown Road. There's some, you know, you can see some water lines there, and there is some floodplain that they're dealing with on that portion. If you go to the next slide, you should be able to see the conceptual plan. So they're showing 17 units that could fit in this based off the R1C standards and how this is laid out. This is probably likely to change to some extent. They are going to have to stub out to the Caldwell farm on the kind of western side of the property there. It's an undeveloped farm. Our suburbs would require a stub out to that. And I think there's been some discussions with the city engineer as far as potentially reworking that entrance so that we don't have that intersection right as you drive in. It's more of a straight shot so that we don't have any conflict with ingress and egress to the site. But they are proposing and in discussions with KOITC to keep that entrance in the same location. You can see where the floodplain exists on this property, that they are looking to do some bigger tracks. I don't think the intent is to put houses there. It's going to be more open space for those two tracks. So I did drop the residential development guidance in the slideshow here, but I can kind of briefly run through it if I can get it up on my staff packet here.
Hey,
Quick.
Director, I had a question.
Yeah.
The floodplain is, the floodplain area is adjacent to the road, the major highway?
It is. It's adjacent to the road.
Covers the range.
Lisa, if you go back to that first slide, where the zoning map amendment is, or even the boundary survey, you should be able to more clearly see. It's just in that one corner, kind of on the northern
There.
portion of the property that has frontage along Shakertown Road.
And that's
It's
where
in
you,
the floodplain.
that's where you
But
were,
most of the property is outside of it.
and that's where you were tying in the fact that the lots are larger in size in that area?
Yes, the lots
Okay.
are larger, and I think they're gonna, I think the intent is to do a bit more open space there, but I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Okay.
So, yeah, for residential development guidance, the first point is just a traffic study is, supposed to be submitted if it's gonna be greater than 50 units. The city engineer has the right to waive that, and, he did choose to waive it for the zoning map amendment portion. He's been in discussion with KYTC about this entrance, and it sounds like, based on the number of units, it won't, meet their threshold for a traffic study, but, you know, it's the commission's discretion if they want to see one at the time of plating. That could be a condition that could be placed on it. Residential development should not exceed the density of immediately adjacent development. The Streamland subdivision that adjoins the subject property to the north has a density of approximately 1.73 dwellings per acre. The proposed density for the subject property is 2.41 dwellings per acre. So this is a 39% increase, so it is under that 50% that we look for, but it is obviously more dense than what we're looking at Streamland. This property is, you know, adjoined to a major arterial, so it, you know, it meets what we're looking for with access and egress for that.
Director, what I see on the picture there, it does not join Streamland at all.
The boundary line adjoins property lines with Streamland, but there is no frontage along any of the.
No street,
roads that
there's no
are
road
in
access
Streamland,
into
so
there,
they
okay.
won't be connecting into Streamland in any way, it's just that those two property lines do abut each other.
And in
Does
the,
that make sense?
yes, and in the top of the paper there, it doesn't go to any lot that doesn't go anywhere else. This is what you see on here is a road pattern that just is for this acreage, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
but, the stop rights would require them to, stop out to the Caldwell Farm, which is to the west, it's an undeveloped 100+ acre, farm. And our stop rights would require that they do that if it's greater than 10 acres. So that would be the only step out that we'd be looking at
Yeah.
this point. It would not be connecting to Streamland at all.
Okay, that's what I knew there were regs on, you have to have stub outs, and I thought there was a large acreage there that we don't see on this image, but it is one that you have to get access to.
Yeah, yeah. So that would have to be addressed at the time of planning, and I'm just making you all aware of that concept plan isn't showing that, and it will need to go back for the future if the zoning map amendment is approved.
All right, thanks, Director.
Yep. So another point for the residential development provisions is that neighborhoods should be protected from adverse impacts of proposed development and land use changes. So the adjoining development Streamland is zone R1A, which requires minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet and 70-foot lot width. R1C, the proposed zoning district, requires minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet and 50-foot lot width. There could be a buffer that's considered between, that property line that abuts up to Streamland. I don't think that we were showing that or had any proposed conditions for that, but it's just something to consider. There's really nothing else as far as residential development guidance that I'll go over. So my staff item of concern, one is that there is only one access point proposed for the development. But, I don't know that we would require another entrance on the Shakertown Road. It's just, the nature of how this is laid out. And at 70 lots, it's probably okay just to have them one egress. The conceptual plan, as I kind of already covered, is that intersection close to the entrance of the proposed subdivision. I would like it to potentially be reworked, so there's less conflict with kind of that weird way that those two points come in. And that's really all I've got. Again, you're looking at whether this proposal is in line with the comprehensive plan. It is in compliance with the future land use map amendment. I do think it's in compliance with the guidance for residential development. It is within the city limits. They will be able to access utilities and provide services for the proposed number of units on site. Is there any more questions for me on this one?
Hey, Director, the traffic study arrangement on there, they don't often find things, but occasionally they find issues and concerns. And then this might have to be revised, this concept, correct?
Yeah, so a traffic impact study really looks at the level of service for roads that be accessing. So be looking at Shakertown Road and whether it has sufficient level of service to accommodate the additional 70 units. Again, it sounds like this won't meet the threshold that KYTC sets. That doesn't mean that we can't require it locally. I think it's to your discretion whether you want to see that done prior to the plating phase or not. But things that I might look at is whether a turn lane would be needed on Shakertown Road or things like that. Potential improvements to help with traffic flow along Shakertown Road.
Is,
If it can accommodate the additional 70 units.
do you recall whether this entrance to the major road there is across from a road from an entrance on the other side?
No.
It's
So
not, no.
they're not at the same
I-
location?
You know, I had concerns about it when I was looking at it on paper, but then when I went out and looked at it, it's probably in one of the better locations for that site. Potentially push it a little bit more north, but I think with the existing entrance already being there, it does have pretty decent distance from where Old Shakertown Road splits off, and it has pretty good sight distance on both sides. It's pretty flat when you're looking at it, and, you know, the city engineer drove out, and it seemed like he agreed with my assessment of that. So ultimately, it's a state road, so KYTC would be responsible for approving the entrance.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And Director, did you say that the city engineer had been in contact as far as traffic already? There might be some discussion about reworking that entrance?
Yeah, I mean, the entrance is gonna have to be widened. It's just a private drive right now, so it's gonna have to meet road standards. You know, the zone change is approved and a plat's brought forward, so it would have to be widened, and my assumption is that they'd have to go through KYCC for approval to get an encroachment permit for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Could I hear from the applicant, please?
I am Dale Shepperson with AGE Engineering, and I will be representing the applicant. This property is at 901 Shakertown Road, and as Michaela said, that it is a split zone as it is now. The back half of the property is zoned R1A. The front half is zoned Ag, and what the proposal for this zone change is to change it all to R1C. And it does match the future land use map, so that's our condition that we're standing on. And the property, as far as the entrance is concerned, the entrance will stay at the same spot. It will just be upgraded. We have already been in contact with Robert Baker about the entrance and to the extent of where it would need to be, and he agreed that the same entrance is where that entrance should be for the property. The property, of course, there's residential property all around this. The only property that's not, I guess, would be the Clemens Quail Farm. That's still zoned Ag, but like I said, this matches the future land use map. And and like I say, the future land use map is our condition that we're standing on for the zone change.
May I ask you about the comment made by the director about requiring a stub road?
Yes, we have room for that on the probably track 57, which is the track just to the west of the top intersection of the two roads. Yes, right there. Yes. That would probably be the most desirable place to put a stub out to the Quail Farm.
Can you speak at all to the concern about the elevation of this property and how you are going to deal with that?
Yes, I mean, it's higher, the elevation is higher in the back than it is up front. And, of course, there's the creek runs along the front of the road there. And as you saw on the previous plat, there is a little bit of property that's in the flood plain. And that tract was just going to be, there's no plans for any houses or anything on that tract. That's just going to be like a nature area. Don't really want to use the word park, but just an area of nature, basically. So, yeah, and what we will not make it any worse as far as the development of the subdivision. All the water will be, we'll do that at a later time if the zone change is granted. We'll do a study of that. The engineers will, the water will not be any worse than what it is present.
May I also ask, the director mentioned that the area in adjacent was R1A, but you are asking for R1C. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes, we're trying to maximize the property, and for the type of, we're trying to bring some smaller lots in. As you'll notice, there's very few that's actually going to be that small anyway. Maybe the ones right up front there, where the drive goes to the left. Yes, you can see in the back the tracks are mostly consistent of being larger. There is a few, like I said, right along the front that's a little bit smaller, but we wanted to go to just one designated zone change.
So what's the range of your lot size?
The lot sizes are, anywhere from, the smallest one would be like 0.18 with 2/10 to, I'm not going to count the 71, a half acre.
So half down to
0.5.
0.5.
Any other questions or comments for the applicant?
Mr. Shepperson, are you interested in considering the possibility of a condition in there about keeping that green space for those two big lots?
Yes, we have no problem with that.
Who would be responsible for maintenance if they stayed green space? Where's the ownership going to be for the big lots?
Henry, we haven't got to that point yet, but we will address that.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to open up the floor for public comment. Anyone liking to speak in favor of this change? Yes, sir. Please come forward. State your name.
Jeremy Shepherd. I'm the JLS. My wife's the L, I'm the J. Our last name's Shepherd. I want to first tell you all that are concerned about this. This was a property that belonged to a partner of mine for years and years. We were partners for 11 or 12 years, and then he passed away. So this property is very important to me. It's hard to get, I'm not a public speaker, I'm sorry. But anyway, the property's terribly important to me. I want you to know that whatever we do there, I'm doing it in memory of, because my partner, he was going to ultimately do this during his retirement. He was a great person to our city. He brought I feel like that he brought a lot of industry here. and me and him would just ride around and think about what, people need, whatever. So I will be thoughtful with it. We want a park for kids that live there, internally where they're not in view of the public road. There's a lot of things we want to make sure that it's something special for, whoever lives there. In the construction business, what we see young people going out and trying to get loans on $300,000 and $400,000 houses as their first house. In my opinion, the reason we want smaller lots is so it can be more affordable to the younger people or the aging out people that want to sell their bigger houses and move into a smaller house on a smaller lot to take care of, and that it can be affordable for, we have a fair number of young people that work for us, and we see the struggle they have with trying to buy a property as their first property. And they're buying these properties that they can't afford. In $300,000 or $400,000, that's becoming the normal for a purchase price, and I think it's crazy. But anyway, that's what we have to offer right now. They either get a $150,000 house that should be $30,000 because it's in such disrepair, or they get a $400,000 house that just got threw up, and have all kinds of problems. And then, it's dependent on the market. So that's what that's what we're striving for. That's what the ultimate goal always was with this property. Just unfortunately, my mentor and my partner passed away, and he never got to do it. And I had the opportunity to purchase the property. One thing, my son's moving there. I believe in it. I don't know. If you get on Facebook, you can go down a rabbit hole with that. I've tried not to do it, but, I'm not a billionaire investor. This is a big thing for us. We just want to try to have, I have 30 employees that we want to make sure they have jobs. So it's another way to do that. I don't know. I just wanted to tell you all that. But if
Thank you.
we are able to do it, we will do it with respect to Streamland or Colonial Heights or whatever. And it will improve the way that people are able to buy houses. What is it?
How are you going to stop the water and the traffic?
They're going to,
Let's,
You'll
hey,
have to
folks, we
speak
need
into the
the
microphone.
conversation in the mics.
oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Because
sorry.
otherwise, everybody cannot hear the conversation.
We wanted to get to this point just so that I could hire engineers to do retainage basins and everything that they need to do. That's not my specialty. I'm going to hire a company to do that, to make sure that
Hey, can we,
that we take care of that. Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, please. The director can't hear us unless you talk to the mic.
If somebody's
So
talking to me, I always.
And the information you're sharing is wonderful. That's just fine. I'm not commenting. I just need to have record.
wanted to look at her. I was always.
That's fine. I
Somebody's
appreciate
talking.
that.
Anyway, we're real passionate about the property. It's something special. It's not anything that I'm in a big hurry about. I want to take my time. I want to make sure that it's right for the city and also right for the property, to be respectful of why I'm doing it. It's not something that we're going to just jump in and try to make some cash. That's not what it's for. I don't live my life that way. I really like Danville. I love Danville. This is where I live. It's where I'm going to continue to live. And I don't know. I just really love this community, and I hope that people will trust me to do a good job with this place.
Thank you, sir.
Could I ask you a question, trivia? The property between there and Streamland, what's the back of the property lines going to look like? Is it just ground to ground? I haven't walked that field, so I don't know what it looks like. Is there a tree row? Is there bushes or?
There's the boundary line is pretty much a tree line. If you go down into the middle where he was saying we were doing the stub out, that is all trees and stuff right now. It's hackberries. It's just trees that have grown up because
Are you're thinking you can save some of them, but some of them you have to move out?
We're going to save every big tree that we can, but,
Okay.
you know, the hackberries and those things, they're not, they're
Yeah.
more invasive than anything. They just,
All
you know,
right.
shed limbs and,
Thank you, sir.
Thank
I
you.
know that there are other folks who want to speak,
okay.
so thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you
I
all
will
for
now
listening.
take other people who are in favor of this, please. If so, come forward.
Good morning, members of the Planning and Zoning. Thank you for your service to the city of Danville. My name is Mark Dexter. Until recently, I was the president of the Central Kentucky Association of Realtors, made up of real estate brokers and agents in Danville. This past year, we merged with the Bluegrass Realtors. Maybe you knew that. They're a much bigger organization, and we had much more opportunities to serve the people with that organization. But I'm not speaking on behalf of either one of the organizations. I'm speaking as a real estate broker here in Danville, Kentucky. There's been so much talk in Danville, there's so much talk among real estate agents, we need more affordable housing. I see this as a tremendous opportunity to see more affordable housing. Smaller lots give lower prices. One of the things beneficial to the city, of course, is more homes yield more property revenue from taxing. So I would urge you to approve this request.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to speak in favor? Yes, sir, come forward.
Hello, my name is Tanner Good. I'm also a real estate broker here in town. I just wanted to comment on Jeremy Shepard's character. He does a wonderful job at building a good quality home, so I have no doubt that these houses will be perfect for young families, people aging out, that sort of thing. There's definitely a need for affordable housing. So, as Mark said, property revenue is important, property tax. That's going to help us do better with our city. I think everybody here would agree to that. So, you know, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor?
My name is Amanda Clark. I work with Mark Dexter at Dexter Real Estate as a realtor as well. And I represented Jeremy in this purchase of this property. And one thing that really stood out to me whenever he called and said he wanted to make an offer on this property was that he had so many fond childhood memories of spending time on the farm with his friend, John Stegall. And it was a very significant location to him from a sentimental standpoint. But the big thing that he said was he wanted to buy this property and create something really special for Danville. So I don't know if anyone knows Jeremy and Leanne personally, but I do. I know that their lives within this community reach far beyond running a construction business. They live with the focus of fulfilling a larger, more divine vocation. They employ a lot of local tradesmen who might otherwise not be able to find work. They pay tip-top wages for the industry. They provide their employees and their families in personal ways that far exceed a typical workplace. So I think their vision for rezoning the 29 acres at Shakertown Road is not only about creating consistent workflow for the local builders and tradesmen, but also providing diverse and affordable multi-housing opportunities for our local community. This is a very highly accessible proximity to downtown for people who may not have access to reliable transportation. And it is really, I think, the perfect spot for a higher density housing development. We are really in a dire situation in Danville when it comes to our housing inventory. The rents are crazy. A 2 to 3 bedroom is like $1,600 to $3,000 a month. That's just unattainable for the working class here. And we, you know, our average list price of new homes is $350, but the average sales price is $180. So there's a huge gap there. Most people can only afford that $180 price point, and we are only listing properties at a higher and higher price. So I think what Jeremy plans to do is wonderful. I think that it's going to create a lot of affordable, desirable options here. We're going to kind of keep up with our surrounding counties when it comes to providing multifamily housing options. So I think it would be great for you to approve the zoning change.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in favor? Would anyone like to speak in opposition, please? Come up to the mic.
Hi, my name is Lana Owens. My husband Bonnie and I have lived at 308 Twin Brook Drive since 1984. The whole time we've lived there, we've had water issues, traffic issues. If we get 1 inch to 2 inches of rain, the bridge is covered at Twin Brook as well as Spring Hill. If you put 71 more houses with rooftops, blacktop driveways, our yard is going to be gone. I think I have sent Michaela 3 videos of what the water looks like when we get 1 inch to 2 inches of rain.
Yes, ma'am. I think Anthony with IT is going to be able to pull those up for you. You might just have to wait a minute while he works on that. Also, 2 of the videos he sent were the same, so I just sent 2 over, so we just are gonna view the 2.
When was this video, water flooding?
That one was taken in 2019.
Okay.
You can't see it, but the water is over the road at Spring Hill as well, and it has a double culvert. We have a 1 culvert. That was in 2023. You can see it's almost over Kentucky 33. This is what we deal with on a monthly basis when we get 1 to 2 inches of rain. I don't think we can stand another 71 houses with all the water, and water runs downhill. Many days, we've not able to get in and out of our property, and neither is anybody in Streamland before the bypass was built. And Steve knows how well what the water does in Streamland. So I respectfully ask you, please do not put more water on us. We can't deal with it. Our yard is eroded to the point where a lot of it is fallen into the stream. It's not a stream, not a creek, it's a stream. My house is sinking. My kitchen cabinets have come down from the ceiling about 2 inches because the water is taking all of our property out from under us. Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone else like to speak in opposition? Come forward, please.
My name is Amy Jorns, and I just recently moved here to Boyle County in Danville and purchased my home on Twin Brook in end of July of last year, okay? What I've noticed in that house is I'm up there at the top of the map that says Amy Jorns, okay? Where that top road is that goes around, that is actually elevated higher than my yard, okay? It's a knoll. That currently rolls down, okay? And the neighbors to the right of me, they have a slight slant because these are the rolling hills of Kentucky. And it meets along the tree line on the farm property, all right? It's dry. I always check before I purchase home or lands to see the FEMA flood zone. I'm not in the flood zone, okay? I'm way off of Shakertown Road and that creek, but my yard floods. I understand what you're saying. Every time we get a rain, and I can see where previous people have tried in that yard to push dirt up against the back fence, dig a trench. There's another fence that goes this way. It goes underneath there, and there's another little creek-like thing with a tree they put in the ground, okay, to try and stop this. This last week ago, 10 days ago or so, we had 2 days of really bad rain, okay? It breached all that, filled up the whole 1/4 of my yard, traveled down 6 or 7 6-foot sections of that fence to where it just missed the basement of my house by 15 feet. And that's all coming from what I refer to as like a dry creek. You don't hear any rippling, rushing water, nothing if it's not raining, okay? So I look at this plat here and I say, okay, the road, what's that road gonna be? Is it gonna be elevated? Are those yards that are backing into my property gonna be a hill dumping into my backyard again? There needs to be some kind of engineering study here to get the water off our properties, because they're not in a FEMA flood zone. It's being caused by the topography of the farm. Okay? The other issue we have, especially with the trees and everything, and the loss of the trees, I bought that property less than a year ago because I like the view. Okay? And so, what's my view gonna look like? If that road has to be raised up, there's probably gonna have to be a retaining wall back there to raise that car. So I'm gonna be seeing cars going by that in front, back of my house that are elevated above me because of the water wash off after rain. That there really should be, that should have been looked at years ago. I understand, I'm trying to be objective here. I think we need to approach this issue objectively, okay? I understand you may have known the person, they're a great friend and all this kind of stuff, but these are our homes. We paid for them. I got a mortgage, okay? The only thing I'm emotionally attached to is that house. It's mine, I own it. And I want to be able to have some kind of control over it and not lose 1/4 of my backyard as a flood zone. I'm on 0.43 acres, and I'm losing half of that backyard. I have to just leave it sit there because the next rain, here comes the water. I paid $6,900, okay, to have the openings in my crawl space closed in, remediated and everything else, and a dehumidifier put down in there, just in case that moisture hits the foundation of my house. We've all, I'm sure, invested money to try to remediate those issues they're natural. They're not man-made. It's because of the topography. So my concern every time I sit in my backyard and I look at that land, that knoll, I'll call it for lack of a better term, higher than my property, I'm thinking, what's the excavator gonna do? Where's it gonna push that to get all those homes backing up into my backyard there?
Was this the first time you've seen the layout?
This is, it was sent to me by a gracious neighbor, a concerned neighbor who taped these to a lot of people's doors.
And this
All
image
I
here,
had was the survey that was sent to me by the city of
Yeah, a
Danville.
lot of times I don't see it until I come here, so I'm
Yeah.
just asking.
So, yeah, I only saw this maybe like 2-3 days ago.
Okay.
But, you know, and I noticed where my property was and thought, no, that can't work. That road's got to be elevated, if it's elevated up, or they're going to be pushing that knoll down. And when they do, there is no way it's going to be level with my yard. It's going to be higher than my yard, because the neighbors to the right, their slopes down. So you're basically filling a gully. And something's got to be in my backyard to stop all that from coming into my yard. I know there's been concerns around the neighborhood about what the median home prices are going to be in that area. When you put a house on the market in our area where we are, that has, we back up to the farm, so we have kind of probably back in 75 when the neighborhood went in, that was considered prime lots. Okay, because of the view and because of the size. Okay, we didn't have another house's backyard right in back of a gate or a fence. So the concern is realtors, they do a property assessment, you know, a market assessment of other homes that have sold recently in the area, okay? So if somebody wants to sell in our neighborhood, let's say they bought it for $250, and the median selling price of a home next door to us is $180, okay? Are we gonna get the price for the home that we want in our existing house? Or is it going to devalue it in the real estate market? So those are all objective things that I'd like to have looked at. I invite members of the commission, I invite, Jeremy, I invite his engineer to come to my yard and walk that yard and wear boots. And you can see where the water's coming in from and come up with some kind of remediation. I retired from the federal government. I used to work for the Army Corps of Engineers. My brother used to be the Nashville District Engineer and the Mobile District Engineer. My dad, retired Colonel Corps of Engineers. And this is all engineering stuff, okay? All engineering stuff. And I came real close to calling the Louisville District Corps of Engineers and saying, would you do me a favor? Come down here, assess what the problem is, give me an assessment, and I'll take it to the city of Danville. So.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Does anybody else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am, come forward. You've been very patient.
That's how city government works. You have to be patient. I'm short. I hope you can see me. My name is Rose Eberly, and I own the two properties at 1079 and 1083 Shakertown Road. And I appreciate the necessity for housing. I was once a young person looking for my first house. Okay, I get that. But my concern is I am on Shakertown Road. The back of my property rises up to the knoll, and the front of me ends in the creek. I want there to be more housing. I am concerned with Jeremy's project for two things. Well, three things, actually. Mostly the density of it. There are 3 houses on my back border now where there were none before. There were just cows. And there's a fence and a tree line. I need the fence. I need the quiet. I have Great Danes and a dying sister who lives in that back house. I don't want that. I also don't want the runoff to come all the way down my hill, which it does because I have sump pumps in both of the houses that I own on those 2 plots that are one in front of the other, and down into the creek. Where I am in the creek right now, it's sort of manageable. I can get out of it even in most of the highest rains. But, so the density of that housing, the securing my property and having that quiet maintained and having no runoff concerns me. But largely from where my house is on Shakertown Road, which is down the bend, and as you make the turn and Grace Church is there on the right-hand side, I'm directly across of it on the houses that go up the hill. Getting out of our driveway, which I share with my neighbor next door, is a killer. You must do a traffic study. If you add, this is 71 homes, but if you even add 50 homes, that traffic, as it comes down the big hill, merges with where it gets to Old Shakertown Road, and then comes around that bend, which you cannot see around because there are no mirrors installed, although I've asked for a reflective mirror to see the hill. People coming down the hill. The traffic is terrible. Take your life in your hands coming down that hill with the traffic. At the current rate at rush hour, we don't go anywhere. You can't get out because you can't see what's coming down from the city. And until I actually had my land cleared so I could see the shrubbery from the curb that comes past Streamland. So in considering the privacy of our lands, the water safety of our lands, the environment, which right now is rural and conservative, I know you need new houses, but I have to ask myself, please meet these considerations. Do something about the infrastructure, the water, where the sewer line's going to cross. Do something about the traffic. These are my huge concerns, okay? I don't mind that somebody new has a new house someplace, but putting them back to back in that kind of density concerns me for all of the infrastructure concerns that I've mentioned. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, sir, come forward.
My name is Charles Johnson. I live in Streamland subdivision, and water is a big concern with the amount of houses that is maybe proposed here on this screen. I live up at the top of the subdivision, but I know I live on a cul-de-sac, and when we have a hard rain, inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, the sewer system that's in there now that takes the water off of the street, it'll back up in our turnaround, and the back of my house backs up to the Caldwell farm. And there is a low spot in the back of my house, and I get runoff in the back from that, and it comes down between my house and my neighbor's and goes through a pipe and into the system. But when it really rains hard, the system that's in there can't handle the water. And when you put houses upstream, as many as proposed here, you're going to have a bigger water problem. And I disagree with the gentleman that said that the water will be no worse. It will be worse, I can tell you that. So that's my main concern, and I thank you for listening, and I would ask you not to approve what has been presented here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You all thought you were finished with me. Again, for the record, I am Melanie Thornberry. I am here on behalf of John and Sarah Kuchenbrod, who own the property immediately adjacent on your plat there that fronts on Shakertown Road. I believe it shows her as Sarah Hamlin, which was her maiden name. It is just shy of 3 acres, and it's a single-family residence located there. They have a number of concerns, some of which have been touched on here, but I want to focus for you all on the concern over the specific residential zoning that is sought. Mr. Shepperson, for whom I have a great deal of respect, in speaking on behalf of the applicant, did say that the applicant is standing on the designation of this property on the future land use map as residential. And while it is shown as residential, as you all likely are well aware, when you consider residential under Article 4 of our ordinances, residential property is broken down into 4 potential subcategories. Those categories are rural.
Excuse me for a minute. We're looking at rezoning, correct? Not the
You are
future.
looking at an application to change the current zoning, which is R1A
Right.
on the back part and ag on the front part.
You're not changing the flume, though.
No, I'm sorry.
I misunderstood you.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So when you look at Article 4, which is the development of land here in our county, there is a single-family residential district. Within that single-family residential district, there are 4 different types. One is a rural residential. Then you have R1A, you have R1B, and you have R1C. When you look at the development of these areas and what is permissible in each of those subcategories within the residential zone, there are distinct and very significant differences between R1A, which is what a portion of this property is currently zoned on the back side. It is also what Streamland is zoned. It is what Candlewood is zoned. It is what Colonial Heights is zoned. It is what St. Michael's Crossing, I believe, that is almost immediately across Shakertown Road, is zoned. R1A permits residential units of a single-family detached home so a standalone single-family unit. It also allows for a modular home. Again, a modular home would be a standalone single-family unit. When you look at what is permitted in the R1C zone, which is what the applicant is seeking a zone change to, you can have a single-family detached. You can have a modular home. You can have a manufactured home. You can have a zero-lot line home, and you can have a single-family attached home, meaning townhouses, patio homes, and homes that take up essentially all of the lot. Then you look at the development standards and you compare R1A to R1C. The minimum lot area in R1A is 10,000 square feet. The minimum lot area in R1C is 1/2 of that. It's 5,000 square feet. The lot width required in R1A is 70 feet at the building line setback. The lot width in R1C is 20 feet less at 50 feet. The lot coverage that is permitted in R1A is 50% of your lot.
Now, the director went over the lot sizes earlier.
Yes, but
Okay.
I'm doing that because I want you all to visualize this, and I think it's very important to the consideration of an R1A versus an R1C.
Yes.
The lot coverage in R1C is 70%. Significantly more of your lot that can be covered, whether it's by structure, by patio, by sidewalk, or by driveway. The minimum side yard setbacks in R1A are 10 feet. They are half of that at 5 feet in R1C. So when you take that into consideration and you look at this plat that has been presented to you all, it strikes me the extreme change in density of an R1C development than an R1A development. And then, as you all have heard from folks who live out in this way, the water issue that they have mentioned is going to be impacted by development, especially lot coverage and lot size. And it's going to be impacted a great deal more under an R1C zone than an R1A zone. So I think that to base it solely on the notion that on the future land use map, it is shown as low-density residential, you all have got to consider what the proposed zone allows as far as those residentials. So an R1A zone could be approved and would also be in conformity with all of those other subdivisions that I just mentioned, as well as the other residential homes that are located along Shakertown Road in that vicinity that are not part of a subdivision. There is my client's home, and then you heard from, I believe, a neighbor with 2 homes. And then if you can picture the opposite side of Shakertown Road, just past St. Michael's Crossing, there are also a couple of...
You're doing a wonderful job of summarizing what we have been talking about, and I appreciate that. I would like to hear if there's other people that want to give opinions, and we can come back to you.
Can I ask you?
You may.
It's already zoned for R1A in the back.
It is, that's
Okay.
correct.
It is being proposed to be changed from ag to R1C, the entire thing, from ag and R1A to R1C.
That's correct.
Do you have a rationale for why? Because legally, if it's in accordance with the comp plan, we have to approve that zone change. Do you have a rationale for why it's not in accordance with the comp plan? I'm also a landowner who deals with water issues. All of us do. The question before us isn't, like, we can't legally protect somebody's view.
Oh, I agree.
We can't.
Right.
We can't legally protect somebody's view. We've talked about this over the last couple of years when people have come in and said, I want to see the cows.
Right.
Okay? We can't legally protect somebody's view. My question is there do you have an argument that tells the commissioners that this is not in keeping with the comprehensive plan to make this zone change amendment?
So I think that the commission, when it considers whether or not to make a zone change amendment, you're first looking at the comp plan, as you observed. And then you also can look at the factors of whether the zoning classification it currently has is appropriate or inappropriate, and whether the one being sought is more appropriate. That's why I went through the specific differences between the
Right.
R1A
Because
and the
the law says
R1C.
50% difference in, the law says 50% difference in density. Like, I'm a process guy. I want to try to remove my personal emotions from this.
Right,
Okay?
yes.
So the law says 50% is what we have to consider for density. It's coming in at 39%, so it's inside that. And the flume does have this as single-family residential. What they're proposing is single-family residential. It's 39% more dense, which is below the 50% line. So process-wise, it all seems to be there. What is it that we should be considering that we're not considering?
Whether or not this requested zone change keeps with the character of the surrounding area. And it is my position, my client's position, that it does not. Because an R1C development is going to drastically increase the density of the development
So
of an area that is
the consideration there, is the
otherwise
drastically is,
R1A.
your client thinks that 39% is drastically different, but the law tells us that we have to be considering 50%.
I think that you all have to,
I'm looking at the process. What does the law tell us? Like,
I think that with all due respect to your process-oriented mindset, which I agree with because that's often the stance I have to take as an attorney, I think it is incumbent upon this commission, and it has always been incumbent upon this commission, to consider a request not only within strict adherence or not to the future land use map or comprehensive plan, but it is also you all who are entrusted by the community to look at a location, what the character of the area is, and whether or not the proposal fits in that.
wasn't that done during the comprehensive plan when this was made, when the future land use map was,
So what the
making this?
comprehensive plan designates this as is low-density residential. Then when you start looking specifically at our ordinance as to what is allowed development-wise in low-density residential, you see this very large spectrum from rural residential down to the R1C of a high density. So I am trying to convey to you all that the density of this project is not appropriate for that vicinity and that area. But there are other appropriate zones, such as R1A, which is what part of this property is already zoned.
Thank you for your comments. I'm sure that there are others who might want to also speak, and so I want to give them a chance. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Tara Edwards. We recently bought the property 707 on Old Shakertown Road, which in 2019 was rezoned from R1A to RM3 because somebody had some big ideas about putting multifamily housing on that property. And I know that's part of your future use plan. It is not our future use plan. It will remain a single-family home for the duration of our lives, which hopefully will be quite a long time. I also want to say that I kind of challenge the notion that the previous owner wanted to develop this property, because when our property was rezoned to RM Family, his wife went and created a land use restriction saying that her husband did not want this developed into a subdivision. So, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mary Beth Garriott. I also live in Streamland. And I think one thing that we haven't addressed is Shakertown Road and the amount of traffic that's on Shakertown Road. It has increased. We've lived in our house 30 years, and we've seen a significant increase in traffic. The roundabout has been helpful, but it also has increased the traffic because you can just zip around there and come on through Shakertown Road. So that, I think, is trying to get out of the subdivision is increasingly difficult. Also, the Christian Academy, Danville Christian Academy, that has been built, there, especially at school drop-off and pickup, you wait a pretty good while to get onto Shakertown Road if you're leaving the subdivision. So I think those are two things that, in addition to what you've already heard, I think that's something that needs to be considered, that has probably changed since this was last looked at. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You've also been patient.
Short and sweet. I'm Jamie Votal. I'm representing a contingency of us that are on the North 3rd Street, right on top of the hill. So we take our lives in our hand when we back out every day. And so I support the R1A. I think that that would be a good compromise between the need for residential housing but less folks. But I highly, highly, highly ask for the traffic study. I think that that's something that's already required in some of the ordinances. I think that it would be very beneficial to see the changes that was just mentioned. And I think that it's just very much needed with the changes and how the two different residentials might even compare to each other. So I'm a data engineer, and so I just think the data would be really good to have as well. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to add? Yes, ma'am. Come forward.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Diebold. I live in Streamland. Streamland is called Streamland for good reason. The FEMA floodplains, I believe, are misleading, regardless of what the floodplain shows. We know that there are water runoff problems all through that area, not just Streamland. I have concerns that we are not looking at the infrastructure that we need to support stormwater stormwater drainage. I also have concerns that we are not looking at what improvements we might need to do to Shakertown Road. Shakertown Road is barely a two-lane road, has no sidewalks until you get down towards town, does not have any emergency lane, and where we are talking about putting ever more traffic onto Shakertown Road, ever more water runoff. By the time you add all that roofing and asphalt, there will be much more water runoff instead of being absorbed into the ground. And there needs to be, with the projection of how much property taxes how much property tax revenue will be incoming to the city and the county. What are we doing to look at the infrastructure for stormwater drainage? What are we looking at for spending money on infrastructure to improve Shakertown Road? And I also agree with, yes, we are looking at land use, and there is a decision to be made, R1A versus R1C. I am much more in favor of R1A versus R1C, and again, there will be less water runoff from R1A, but regardless of what type of residential properties are put on in there, what are we going to do about infrastructure for stormwater drainage that will affect all the adjacent properties? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, ma'am, come forward.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hamlin. Melanie has previously spoken for me, but I just want to say, I'm not worried about you all protecting my view. That's not why I'm here. I understand that development happens and it's necessary. What I am worried about is protecting the actual, what is the correct development, what the correct zone is. If you look at the map, which I know was on one of the sides, all of the zones around us are R1A, and that's what it should stay. I think R1C is just too dense for this area. R1A is the appropriate zoning. Changing the ag section to R1A is appropriate, but everything should stay R1A, not R1C.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Can I say something else, please?
Let's
Let
finish
the
with the
gentleman
staff.
come forward,
Or the
please.
group, please.
My name's Christopher Reed. I'm not here representing anyone today. I'm here on my own interest. I live on 3rd Street, right next to the Hamlin property. There's too little that we don't know about this project. We don't know the economic impact. We don't know how the types of properties that are going to be put in will affect the total property values for Streamland, the surrounding subdivisions, and even the historic properties as you approach town on 3rd Street. We don't know the effect it's going to have on traffic. I know right now that if I don't leave for school with my daughter at 7 o'clock, it's going to take me an extra 35 minutes to get across Lexington Avenue in the morning. In the afternoon, if I have to leave at 4 o'clock, I know I might as well just forget about it, head north and take the bypass around town to the other side. Adding, let's see, I think the number was 71 houses. So 142 new cars coming in and out of there twice a day. The impact of that needs to be evaluated, not just on traffic, but on the actual infrastructure of the road itself. The other issue I have is I have a 4-year-old girl that I can't let play in the front yard because of the type of traffic that comes through there. It's simply dangerous. She can't cross the road to get to the only section of the street that has sidewalk all the way to town because of the traffic that comes through there. It is dangerous for me to back out of my driveway now as it is. without more information, without the specific types of homes that are going to be built, the types of low density, the types of high density, whether it's going to be a duplex or something more like a long stream of townhomes, the impact of what we're being asked to do today is unknown. And I think out of an abundance of caution, you should satisfy those unknowns before making a decision on the zone change. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Madam
You
Chair,
wish-
if I might jump in real quick, I think if we have departing members, that we should have a vote up, down, or to postpone before their departure.
Because we do have a deadline for them.
Yes. I will let you quickly add what you wanted to add, please, and then
No,
we're going to go.
I just
to
have a
vote.
few comments. I started to work for the city in 1999. Pardon me? My name is Lana Owens. I live at 308 Twin Brook Drive. My husband and I do. We've lived there for 41 years. I started to work for the city in 1999. From 1999 to 2025, I have addressed the city about the infrastructure and the water. I've got email after email from 2019. I sent an email to Mayor Atkins regarding the traffic and the water. I got an email back from him that stated that he would send it to the city manager and the city engineer. He did. I got an email 2 weeks later from the city manager that said the email had gone to his spam folder, that he would send it on to the city engineer. I got an email in 2021 from the city engineer that said that they were addressing the possibility of building a watershed. A watershed is not going to take care of the water that we get. I addressed him this morning as to why, and from 2021 to February the 26th, 2025, I did not hear back from him until I went downstairs and addressed him myself.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, we are going to have to.
I was getting ready to say thank you for your time, and I respectfully ask that you decline this zone change.
Thank you so much. All right, we have a couple of our commissioners who are going to have to leave just very shortly, so we need to really move to close the public comment for this time and for the commissioners to have the decision about whether we want to postpone this until the next meeting, whether we want to have a vote at this time, or what we would like to do. Henry, can you help to direct this?
Those are your options. Recommend approval or denial, postpone to the next meeting. There have been times in the past when we've postponed and directed council to prepare findings. I'm happy to do that if you want. And that would also be an opportunity for opposing counsel to prepare and submit findings as well. If we did that, the hearing would not reopen at the next meeting. We would open, have the findings before us, any discussion from the commission just on those findings, and then vote to adopt one set or the other. So that's an option available. Or we could have a quick discussion and a vote.
All right.
Henry, I also wanted to jump in. It is typical for the applicant to be able to respond to comments and questions that came up during the duration of the public hearing, and I'm not sure if there's interest in doing that. And I know we're on the time frame on it, but I just wanted to note that.
I have to say that as chair, I really am in favor of the comment that you made, Henry, about doing some further review, but I would like to hear from the commission.
I would like to hear at some point a response by the applicant also. It becomes very important. This is not an easy topic.
Agree. I'd like to hear from the applicant to see if we postpone this until the next meeting, give the applicant some time to consider all the questions that were brought forward today. And again, within our narrow framework, because we're not the city, we're not making decisions about taxes. We're not making decisions about stormwater runoff and roads. We are only making a decision based upon the law as far as the rezone. Could the applicant answer any of those, concerns? And I think that it would be helpful to give it a month.
Okay. So are you making a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we postpone, table this motion right? To table this motion until the next hearing, until the next commission meeting.
And I think in that, we should be directing Henry to look at the findings that we
correct.
would,
I will prepare findings. Ms. Thornberry will have a chance, but we will keep the public hearing open for what Mr. Ruby's talking about, any response that there might be from the applicant to comments that were made.
Yes, we're not closing this.
So we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please say yes or raise your hand. Okay, it will be tabled for the time being. Thank you to everyone who came forward and spoke. March 5.
The special called meeting on March 19th? No?
We won't be discussing it at the March 19th meeting. It will be on March 26th at 9 a.m. in the city commission chambers again. So again, Wednesday, March 26th at 9 a.m.
Thank you very much.
Now, we're going to pause a minute, and then we'll get back to our other business.
Okay, so we no
Can we
longer
do-
have a quorum. Can we deal with anything else that's in open?
I think we can get the reports.
Yeah, find out. Right.
Because we had another,
Yeah.
we have to address the last amendment to the regulations.
Some of us would like to hear about the Personnel Committee, too.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Folks, we need to continue.
Hey,
If you
folks,
want to
we
have
need to continue the meeting.
conversation,
Could we go out in
please
the hallway?
step out into the hallway.
Unless you want to sit and join and listen to the meeting.
Please step out into the
Our
hallway.
meeting is continuing.
We need you to continue this out in the hallway.
Traffic cop.
Sometimes that's it.
All right, we're going to continue our meeting, and we need a little direction from Michaela and from Henry as what on our agenda we can address.
Without a,
Yeah, so, sorry, is our time frame 11?
we've lost Tom and Steve now, so we no longer have a quorum. We can't take final action on any further matters.
We can,
But is it worth trying to get reports?
We have some things that I needed action on. Well, I don't know what we need to do at this point, Henry. Do we need to call a special call meeting? It wouldn't be public hearing related. Can we?
I think that I was envisioning that being the best possibility. You're talking about to authorize commissioners to take action in the interim period, is that? Yeah, that's.
Yes, that's correct. I need to get the BGI contracts approved. I need to get, the budget amendment and the prelim budget approved, recruitment committee approved, authorizing commissioners for administrative tasks. And we also did not approve the Hunley plat.
Is there any of that that can be done through virtual meeting?
All of it can be done through virtual meeting. If we can get 6 commissioners to Zoom, we could take care of all that.
I was going to suggest that that would be the easier one to coordinate for this. Yeah, is to find a Zoom meeting time that we can have as a joint element and simply do it.
That's
So
acceptable.
we need to do that fairly soon.
Yeah, as soon as possible. I wanted to get the BGI in here for the planning services so we can start that transition. And, I need the budget amendment and see the budget approved so I can submit funding, for the next fiscal year.
So I am going to ask you, Michaela, to determine a date for us to have a Zoom meeting in the very near future so that we can take care of that business. And we'll have to assure that we will have a quorum for that meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Kendall, with this Hunley plat, is there a specific deadline looming, a closing or anything like that?
Yes. The buyer of the property's here with us.
I think we can get it by March 15th easily, so.
All right, we can easily do that.
Yes.
Some other steps to take.
Sure.
I feel like I mean, it's such a simple plat that I feel like the five of you could, it
We
would be
don't have a
okay,
quorum.
I think.
I know you wish we did,
I
but we do
appreciate your
not.
confidence, but the regs we have says they have to have a head count of 6.
So at this time, then, I guess I would request a motion to adjourn, to be reconvened at a special virtual meeting on Zoom in the very near future.
Yes. Henry, I'm assuming that will not include the public hearing for the subregs. I'm assuming we are just tabling that to the March 26th meeting.
Unless you saw it otherwise, we could allow for public,
What's that, sorry?
we could allow for public participation in the remote meeting, but if that's not
No,
desirable.
no.
Okay.
I think we
No.
wanted, I think we want that session to be in the March 26th meeting.
All right.
Yeah, I would like to get this meeting done in the next week, so I'll send out the doodle poll and we'll try and get something scheduled here.
So may I receive a motion to adjourn and reconvene?
Can we do that without a quorum?
Being that it's, I think we're talking about commission business, that's why we can't vote on anything that
I
allows the
got you.
signature to be, but
Okay.
adjourning the meeting,
Yeah.
yes.
So yes, I will so move. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, and
I'll second it.
thank you. All in favor, please stand up and leave the meeting.